Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. We are very excited to be here talking about how we have transformed the observability practices at Maersk. My name is Roshit Radhakrishnan. I'm a Director Engineering for Platform Engineering Group at Maersk. I have the privilege to support quite a number of awesome engineering teams, including observability, tools engineering, and container runtime engineering. I am, okay. I live here in the UK. It's been a couple of years since I've been living here, and we shifted with my family for work, and still getting used to this, ways of working, and then of course the weather, things like it. But I'm originally from India, a place called Kerala, which is down south of India. It's often referred to as God's own country for its beautiful landscapes and backwaters and so on. Before moving to London, I've been in Bangalore for about 16 years, and for very obvious reasons, it's a beautiful city and my second home as well. Along with me is Henry. Why don't you introduce yourself, Henry?
Yeah, thank you very much, Roshit. Really excited to be here today. So my name is Henry. For the past 1.5 years, I've been working as an engineering manager, and with the main focus on building an observability platform, a company-wide observability platform for Maersk. And yeah, I'm really happy to share some insights and how that went the past 1.5 years. And yeah, this is what I do when I'm not working, taking selfies with some random people. So obviously that's my family. We have 2 wonderful sons, and this picture was taken during one of our last trips when we went to the Arctic Circle in Finland.
Cool. So why are we here, right? I mean, during the next 20 or, just less than 30 minutes, what we'll do is we'll walk you through our experience building an internal platform from scratch, of course, using LGTM stack, our challenges along the way, of course, our experience and our future forward as well. All right, before we start in, disclaimer, we are just the engineering leads, but our team did all the awesome work. Few of our team members are here. I don't know if they can just raise their hands. Yeah, there you go. They've been doing all the amazing work. We are just here to cheer them on, right?
And FYI, if I may add to that, so we're not doing a live Q&A at the end of this session. This has nothing to do with us being managers, right? It's just because we have so much content to throw at you. If you have a question, I just made a post in the community Slack of Grafana. So I opened a new thread, and our wonderful engineers are ready with their phones to answer any question that you might have. To just pop it in there, and they're going to go ahead and answer that.
All right. So people who don't know Maersk, we are the global leader in integrated container logistics, right? We operate across, or what's our purpose? Our purpose is to make sure that 20% of the world's global trade is flowing smoothly, all days, right? I mean, that's what our purpose is. And we have our operations actually stem across ocean, ports, air, and land. We have over 100,000 customers across 130 plus countries, and beyond business, our purpose is to improve life for all by integrating the world. We operate along with this, right? We handle a large infrastructure footprint and very critical infrastructure footprints as well, right? I'm talking about infrastructures like large container vessels to ports, to terminals, and also warehouse and logistics facilities. And it's a very, very, it's not standardized, correctly well, right? And we are using technology to do that for us. So technology forms the core of our digital transformation. We are investing in quite a lot, including modernizing our technology landscape, building cutting-edge digital, front ends, and also investing quite a lot on making sure that we build the greatest and easiest developer experience for all of our customers. And we use AI and ML to make sure that we provide more reliability, better visibility, and agility for our customers. So over the last few years, we have been going through a digital or a transformation journey, right? So we transformed our ways of working to be a bit more cloud-first, technology-driven company. And what we have done is we have empowered our business functions to move faster, right? Make the technology choices, on their hands, and they were able to do that quite well, right? But over the years, it have introduced quite a lot of challenges for us as well, right? I know, we all agree, particularly as engineers looking at the observability space, there is no one-size-fits-all, solution when it comes to observability practices, right? And that's exactly the same case here as well, especially when you are handling large and complex infrastructure and technology footprints. So over the years, we have acquired quite a number of vendor toolings just to isolate these individual monitoring requirements, and managing these infrastructure or managing these toolings and correlating the data was nearly impossible, right? And that actually introduced us quite a lot on siloed issues and not having comprehensive coverage across all, right? And of course, as the infrastructure footprint grew, the cost also went over and beyond, and managing observability requirements with cost control measures remain a constant concern for us. So we tried to solve this problem using an internally developed platform from the scratch, right? We call it Maersk Observability Platform, or MOP. And these, what you see on the screen represents our guiding principles and strategy behind building this particular platform. Our goal was to provide a centralized platform for all observability requirements across Maersk. Self-service capabilities enable every developer within the organization to onboard into the platform easily without any additional barriers or approvals. So it's actually shifting the culture back, to the owners, to the developers, to have accountability and ownership as well. Open source is one of our guiding principles. Not only it helps us actually, build cost-effective solutions, but also it ensures that there is no vendor lock-in, and more importantly, selecting the right tools for the right job, right? And democratizing data is another fundamental principle. We wanted to break the data silos that exist in different parts of the org and make observability data available for all users across Maersk. And importantly, we wanted to build a solution which is purpose-built for Maersk, right? It has to be customized, and customization is the key and only lever through which we can, liaise this solution back to the organizational objectives and goals. With that said, I'll pass it over to Henry to give us a platform overview and capabilities.
Thanks, Rohit. Please give me the clicker. I don't know what to do with my hands otherwise. So let me give you an overview of the platform here. So now Rohit introduced you a bit into the problem space, and I'm now going to give you like a high-level overview of the capabilities of the platform, and then we deep dive into the stack as well. So on this chart, you can see like these are all the capabilities that we either have already stood up or will be standing up in the future. And you can imagine with this strategy of Maersk, like being the integrator of container logistics, observability data occurs at probably every step of the supply chain. And so far, for us, this materializes in logs, metrics, or traces. There are some tools on this chart where we actually stood up something ourselves, where the open source tooling was just not up to the mark of the requirements that we were facing. So diving a bit into the core stack here, so we actually run the stock images as Grafana publishes them, and then we use JSONet to just configure them and deploy them. And in the field out there, our most commonly used agent is the Grafana agent. We run it as a cluster module for all the clusters that are there, all the Cube clusters. But we also support the Telegraph agent and the OpenTelemetry collector. But basically, you can send data to us with any agent you want, as long as you adhere to our ingestion APIs. Now that we talked about some of the capabilities, let me try to stitch this together for you a bit from a customer's perspective. So imagine you're a new engineer at the team, you're the puppy of the team in one of the Maersk logistics engineers team, and your task from the staff engineer is, hey, we wrote this new application, please onboard it to the Maersk Observability Platform. In the last community of practice meeting, I heard that that's a cool platform, so we want to use it for our latest application. And yeah, there you go. He's providing you the link. He's so nice. He gives you the link to the Grafana instance that we have. And you just open it in your browser and you realize, hey, cool, single sign-on works. I can just log in. There's no approval needed. That's one of the things we try to embrace, as Rohit mentioned, self-service, right? So no one should be able to, like everyone should be able to access the platform, send data to it. And then you realize, oh, there's even documentation that you can use, right? So you can dive into that. And there's an onboarding guide. Nice. So that's exactly what you need, right? You want to know how to get onboarded to the platform, and it's right there. And you realize, oh, if your application is running on one of the Maersk provided Kubernetes clusters, done. Your job is basically done because telemetry is already ingested to the platform. It's tightly integrated with all the other platform products that we offer inside of Maersk technology, which is nice. But even if it wouldn't be, there's also guides on how to set up agents yourself and how to integrate that all on with like self-service built in. Just send it. That's what we call it. And then, you of course want to query the data, right? So how do you do that? You use labels, right? That's probably not something I'd have to tell you about. For us, labels also play a very important role when it comes to running the platform, because we use them for different kind of things. Obviously, we use them for retention, like adjusting the retention time. For instance, for logs, dev logs obviously have a way lower retention time than production logs. We also use these labels for usage tracking. So want to find out who's the top talker on our platform at the moment? Yeah, we use labels for that to find that out. Same goes with cardinality tracking. If there's a spike in cardinality, these labels help us to find out like who has caused the spike. And also we use them for traffic routing. In the beginning, when we started with this platform, this happened, right? So we probably had the most comprehensive list of how to define a pre-production environment with different spellings. And yeah, obviously this is not something you would want, right? So how did we handle this? We stood up a guard at our front gate, right? And that one actually materialized as a custom application that we wrote. So Guard is a write proxy, and you are looking at the configuration file of Guard here. So as you can see on line 3, Guard forces you to send an env label alongside the telemetry data that you ingest to our platform. And it also forces you to provide a certain list of, like a value out of a certain list of allowed values. So that's how we enforce standards by using a write proxy on our ingestion path. And you can see on line 11 as well, there's another label that we enforce, which is app for the application, but we do not prescribe any valid values for that one. Okay, so what happens if you violate those standards once the data is being sent to us? We just drop your data. Sounds hard, but yeah, we don't do it silently. There's a dashboard that you can go to, right? So this is like the data validation dashboard is what it's called. And probably this is one of the most used dashboard that we have in the platform. So probably every week there's a support case that we get like, hey, I can't find my observability data. And what we then do is, yeah, here's a troubleshooting guide. Step number 1, check the data validation dashboard. Is your data being dropped? And oh, it is? Yeah, see, problem solved. So coming back to like your new job, right? You get it, standards matter, okay. But that's all taken care of, fine. Let me deep dive into my observability data. Now I want to start querying, right? So yeah, this is what we saw, what was happening, right? So the same customers that came up with all these nice spellings for environment names also have great ideas on how to do querying in the wrong way. And actually, we were bugged by some incidents because of customers doing some weird queries or creating recording rules that were not like very optimized. And actually, this is a very nice feature of Loki that was recently introduced, where you see the amount of data that would be queried before you even submit the query. And yeah, what did we do? You might guess it already. We summoned a wizard to help us with some magic, and wizard is actually another custom component that we stood up, not on the ingestion path this time, but on the read path, on the query path. And as you can see here, wizard is providing also some visual guidance to the user, actually, who's using Grafana. And there's different messages you can see here. The latest one being on the bottom right, piggybacking on this Loki feature that I just explained. So whenever a query by a customer using our platform in Loki exceeds 200 gigabytes of log volume that it would query. We just don't allow the query. So that's a nice addition. And there's other validations that we do on the query path. Quick shout out here to Madhu, who was one of the main contributors of Wizard in this case. And also there's, of course, a dashboard that we have to give us some insights on what query validation errors occur and if there's an actual learning process that kicks in of the users of our platform because of these things that we display to them. All right, summarizing this again. So we actually run the LGTM stack. We have added two things to it, which is Guard and Wizard. Wizard for the query path for either via Grafana or our query API. And we added Guard on the ingestion path. And as a whole, this is pretty awesome for us. And you now may ask, yeah, but hey, wait, open source goes both ways, right? And we totally agree. So this is a list of pull requests that we provided back to the community. The top one probably being the biggest one that we did, where we upgraded the Azure SDK of Tempo. And we also did this because we were haunted by a nasty bug in it, which gave us some odd hour pages, which obviously is bad. So now that I talked about all these capabilities and the deep dive into the stack, we also found ourselves desperately in the need of a real user monitoring capability as part of the platform. And once again, Grafana Labs saved us by releasing Faro, and Roshit will now tell you a little bit more about that.
All right, so we started this journey in early 2022, right? And it was during mid 2022, we actually looked at this problem statement. How do you enable front-end observability, right? How do you standardize those practices? And the launch of Grafana Faro was right on time, right? So as of now, we have integrated Grafana Faro into our observability pipelines. And along with Grafana Faro, what we have also done is we have added a number of custom OpenTelemetry JavaScript instrumentation libraries. We have developed our own custom modules, and we package it in a custom SDK, right? And that's been embedded within our applications code base, or users just need to embed this in their application code base, and then you get the observability data, including logs, exceptions, events like the page clicks, URL page navigations, etc. And we can then forward it into our core observability engine using the OpenTelemetry format, right? And in this diagram, we use a custom version of the Grafana agent. We use that particularly to ensure there are app validations in place and quite a number of additional enhancements that we do, right? While we do that, we could actually we provide default dashboards or templatized dashboards for our front-end users, right? And we include the page performance summary, including the web vitals, exceptions and errors, and of course, user analytics data. And users can then customize it according to, if it is going to be the entire web page or URL-based view, or even individual sessions, right? Okay. So we have added a ton of Grafana Faro, by the way, did a lot of heavyweight for us, but at the same time, we had to do a lot of instrumentations and customizations to support our user base or user requirements, right? As you could see on the screen, majority of these events are custom events generated by the applications through the traces, and then we add configuration options back to the users to be included within their SDK, to gather these informations over. We provide support for Beacon. This is especially useful for applications who are resource heavy. Who are very much interested on their application performance. Using this, they will be able to send the request on the fly, and then through the backend and without letting. It's more like a fire and forget method, right? We also added the performance marks. This will actually capture the page rendering times rather than just the page upload times, and then we give session sampling, for these for the users, to instrument what do they need to really push, further to their log pipelines. This is yet another feature or customization which is not available out of the box using Faro, and then same. Customize it, and configure it as per the user needs is what the mantra here. We have also replaced, Zone Context Manager, which is basically because of the compatibility issues with applications. I know, this is one of the, I wouldn't say a bug, but an issue which is getting worked, with Faro engineering team. And we have also implemented custom error handling, right? And to support our applications working on offline mode. As I said, we have tons of vessels and applications running on vessels, which actually requires, logs to be pushed only when there is network connectivity, right? And then we could funnel that, and then, or we could actually funnel that network calls when application comes online, push that over to our observability pipeline. While this was all good, we went further beyond, and then we had to support our mobile app or mobile customers as well, right? So, Mursk mobile app is used by very much everything that you can do on the web, you can do very much on the mobile as well. But users generally track it for, use it for tracking their shipments online. And we have seen a tremendous increase in the mobile app, since COVID, right? More than 460% increase over. And our mobile team uses Flutter for cross-app platform development, and the requirement was how to support them, right? So we have developed an SDK, which is nothing but a custom code, which directly interacts with the backend API or with the APIs, native APIs for both web, iOS and Android. And we use method channels within Flutter to satisfy that particular need, right? We then funnel that over, into our pipeline, and using a custom version of the Grafana agent, we would be able to, pick the instrumentation data or the, device data, just like how you do it, via a web SDK back into our core engines. So we provide, again, default dashboards for including the mobile vitals, errors, exceptions, and analytics data. And this is a summary of what we could actually, capture at this particular point in time, right? As I said, a ton of customizations or instrumentations that went in order to capture events, logs, and measurement, including few meta information. And we use the method channels to actually capture the device, CPU memory, the ANR stats, and then the frames, native slow frozen frames as well. We use, RUM HTTP overrides for getting the load duration, request response sizes, and asset bundle to capture the asset load times and the asset sizes as well. And we use RUM, navigation observer to get the view page information and also the routes, and also the user interaction widgets to get more in-depth details on the tap, clicks and other user information data as well. By the way, this custom module we are looking at open sourcing and then giving it back to the community as well, in case if people are more interested in this. All right, over to Henry for reliability.
Thanks, Rashid. Are you getting a page right now? Are we down?
No.
Okay, so let me talk a bit about reliability of the platform, because if you can imagine probably that the platform at this scale, it's important to run it in a reliable fashion. And I'm going to tell you a bit about the technical challenges we had, but we also invested a lot into cultural and mindset things when it comes to reliability. So we really try to embrace this SRE mindset as part of a team. There's no separate SRE team running the platform. We do it ourselves. The engineers do it themselves. And yeah, this is how it went. Basically, in the beginning, we couldn't keep up with the growth. So all of these graphs just basically point up, except the one from GitHub. We use GitHub for support. So I don't know why that graph drops in the end, but it's just how GitHub renders this. Also, this is a very nice dashboard. Shout out to Liam, who created this nice dashboard, and also the metrics that it's based on. You can see these numbers are huge. At least we think they are huge. But there's also some hidden truths to this, right? That probably not all of this data is being used by our customers. There's actually this one article that I read where, like, a simple Hello World application deployed to a Kube cluster and you instrument it, it produces like 0.5 terabyte of observability data in 1 month, which is crazy. So yeah, good thing that Grafana has this feature of adaptive metrics and cardinality tracking, right? We still have to double down on that area as part of our platform. So we run on Azure with AKS. We run on Spot Nodes. I want to put on a cowboy hat just by saying that. And we run it in a single tenant configuration, still the whole stack. We do not yet see a requirement to change that, but we might see that in the future. This was one of the first setups, cluster setups that we did once we stood up the platform. So super, super simple. Actually, the zone awareness is the only thing providing some kind of high availability here. And like Tempo wasn't even zone aware once we when we did this. So the zone awareness feature, we provided that back as a PR to Tempo. And yeah, and actually reality hit us because of this huge adoption that we saw across Maersk. And hands up if any of you were bugged by one of these issues, running out of ARP cache or running out of contract connections. Yeah, let's give each other a hug after the talk because we survived, right? Woohoo. So based on that, we improved the setup to keep our 99% promise of availability that we have given our customers in the beginning. So we moved each of the tools to a separate node pool. We split the storage accounts. So yeah, that got us so far. And then we split it even further because we wanted to go to increase our promise even further to 99.5% of availability. So each tool is now sitting in its own cluster. And we even have loads of other ideas on how to improve this even further. But yeah, if you want to hear more details about that, just find me after the talk. Since my focus here was on reliability only, we are also facing very complex requirements from the organization moving forward, but a little bit more on that from Rohit.
All right, so what next? We are at a very critical juncture wherein we have provided basic observability requirements. When I say basic, majority of the bucket falls as a basic requirement. But considering where we are in, reliability and the user adoption is our primary area of focus, right? Along with this, though, there are tons of requirements that we need to cater as we look forward in 2024. And one of the things is, how to enable observability at our edge endpoints. I talked about, handling large infrastructure footprints, and these are exactly the ones, right? We have got 700 plus vessels, tons of terminals, and 450 plus warehousing facilities, wherein, these are large pieces of infrastructure, but very digitally fragmented, right? We wanted to bring this together and then build observability, across all of these edge endpoints, which is critical. And we wanted to do that with consistent observability experience for our developers, right? So here we are looking at, stitching our observability pipeline into the internal platform, internal development platform that we are building. And we don't want to miss out on the wave of AI and ML as well, right? While we are pretty pragmatic on our approach, but we wanted to tap in the intelligent observability practices to provide better visibility and better operational insights for our customers as well. And with the recent announcement that Grafana has made, and I hope that would be a pretty easy task there. So as much as we embrace open source, we also wanted to continue contributing back, along with many tools or custom components that we just mentioned over here. We have also made a synthetic monitoring tool. Unfortunately, we didn't have a chance to discuss that. But the point is, we are looking at contributing back to the community, in the open source world, right? And that remains one of our core objective as well in 2024. I think with that said, that's pretty much the end of our talk. I hope you have enjoyed this particular experience. Should you have any questions, feel free to grab us, post this call. Thank you.